Yo guys, I'm Yellow, the Norwegian hardcore PC gamer, and today we're going to talk about the Dust2 map and a couple of changes that I think would make a lot of sense in this map in the long run. Now, whether or not these click with you guys and whether or not you enjoy them or not, that's really like up for you to decide, but either way, I think that I'm gonna make a lot of sense with this video. So let's start with the first thing that I find to be the most obvious, and you can find it here in the spawn, and it's all over the place on Dust2 specifically. It is the pavement kind of brick thing that is supposed to be at the sides. Most people have been walking on the pavement, and what separates the road from the pavement is normally these kind of brick things. Now on this map, they make no sense. They're close to these roads all over the place, but they literally have no serious impact other than to be a small elevation that is all over the place. You can see it right here. And especially when you are interacting with this thing, it feels like a mess. So let's go through some of the factors that make it just an absolute disaster when you want to do some pinpoint high level shooting, regardless of your skill level, but high accuracy, I guess we could say. So from the get-go, when you're stepping on them, your elevation is altered. You stand on them, obviously, and that is fine, you know, and so I would easily forgive them if they were a lot more subtle and nuanced in the sense that you don't instantly shoot up when you step on them, and in some cases it's even worse. I'll get to that in a second here, but this factor means that when you want to aim properly at somebody and you want to readjust your position so that you maybe won't get hit by a bullet, or maybe you are forced to go at a particular area where these pavement bullshit things are, as I'm standing on him here, you can see that my actual aim is altered. God damn it, dude, it's very annoying to have the perfect aim going, but because of how the angle was a little bit off, it's a little bit far away, suddenly your aim is completely thrown off. And the worst part I would find is that this map is heavily practiced on. You actually get worse practice because of this thing being a part of the game, and that is not good. Especially since every single other map out there does not really have this in them, which technically basically makes it so that I actually enjoy to do some deathmatching on cache more so than Dust2, even though I do still play on Dust2 because the map have a very little impact on your GPU and CPU relative to the other maps, which in return obviously makes it a lot more viable when you're playing at just like, I don't know, like 12-man servers free-for-all, 16-man, even more. It all depends on what the server have to offer, really. But aside from that, though, it can actually get a little bit worse, and this is what I find to be the most interesting. If you move perfectly, and there is any kind of elevation that is as forceful as these pavement pieces, you will not move, or rather you will not like glide on top of them. Whether or not this have been fixed or not, I don't know, but seriously, like at the notch here I'm standing on, or the ledge, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, seriously, it's absolutely like cancerous. So you are standing so perfectly, just by RNG, so perfectly fine close to the edge, when you then want to move backwards, you slide against it. It's almost as if it's a wall, but it's not a wall, you know, it's a fucking piece of pavement walk that just have been poorly added to the game, and it doesn't serve any purpose, and it looks fucking ugly. Right here you can see like the devs, it looks like they've done a fairly sloppy job, I would say, but maybe that's just me, or maybe it's not me. Maybe the map is just really old and it have a lot of maintenance to be done to itself, and you know what, racing the pavement might be one of those maintenance things that have to be done, right? But either way, I think my point is fairly clear regarding the pavements. They have to fucking be gone or smoothed out hardcore so that they're not annoying, and that's aside from how you interact with these surfaces. It's just pure technical cancer, and it doesn't really serve any good practical practicing purpose for CSGO. Now then, next on the list will be about graphics regarding just your frame rate in general, okay? It's a fairly simple subject to get through, but I'll try and cover all the small nitpicky details that you guys might be interested in as well. So not everybody are lucky enough to be able to afford an expensive graphics card, and this is where rubble and random items and just technical alterations and details on the maps, if you are doing it from a texture perspective, I am completely fine with it. I find that to be glorious genius, and I don't really mind it. But when they're actual like architecture pieces, or like here, these stones for example, added to the map at random, that literally serve second to no purpose at all, in which in a lot of cases you could probably compensate with their existence with actual literal textures in some cases. Like, I find it to be a lot more cool and viable if I could turn them off. If I could decide to turn these ones off, I would do it every single time, 100 out of 100 times, or actually 10,000 out of 10,000 times. Minus that single time when I turn the setting on and I see, oh, there's all this geometry shit on the map that literally only pull down my frame rate. You know what? I'm gonna turn that off. And you know what that means? That means that my frame rate is gonna be better, my aim is gonna be more crisp, more smooth, and if I'm lucky enough to have an overclocked 75 Hz monitor or a 144 Hz monitor, or even if your computer is barely able to chug 60, you're going to be able to get closer to that number. And especially also, and this is a side point that is incredibly important for Valve to also think about, if you are dealing with anti-cheat software, that is obviously going to hog some performance because you want your game to run up to the highest security standards. And I think that that is also a secondary but still a very viable thing to focus on when you're designing these maps, so that you make sure that the less attention is put onto all of this sort of bullshit, regardless of what it is, so that your GPU and CPU can do a lot more work regarding pumping frames instead of adding a lot of fucking rocks all over the place and garbage and actual debris that makes no fucking sense. In which I think that you can make the argument that Valve know of all of this sort of stuff and they're thinking about it. And if you take a look at some of the more recent design changes that Valve have done to a lot of the maps, what is it called again? Yeah, the demolition maps. They're actually done a lot of them. I'm gonna link you guys in the description to somebody on the Imgur that posted a little picture gallery of a lot of the changes they did. And if you know anything about how CSGO maps, they actually stop rendering stuff that is not within your view, if it's not in your view, in which in return give you a better performance. You can clearly see that that kind of feature have been enforced on a lot of the older demolition maps. And so I'm going to put 1 and 1 together, thus we get 2, and the solution, the 2 number right here, is that Valve probably know of all of these things, and whether or not it's going to manifest itself in a higher frame rate, better security, or more smooth and cool maps whenever the new version of Dust2 is going to come out, nobody knows. But I know one thing for sure, and that is that you guys now know all of this information. And when in 6 months, a year, who the fuck knows when Valve release anything really, it's going to most likely be pretty awesome to play the new version of Dust2. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, regardless if you knew about all the things or not. Here are 2 related videos if you want to get smarter or better at CSGO, if you want to support my channel, now in these times when YouTube is just being a fucking ass to its creators like me, for example, supporting on Patreon would be absolutely glorious. But either way, thanks for watching, have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play.